Hi there and welcome back. This time around, we want to take a look at the standard deviation of a frequency distribution. How do we find the standard deviation of a frequency distribution? I have given out some steps here which we can follow to find the standard deviation of a frequency distribution. The first step to be carried out to find this is to construct a table with the first row of the table labeled as I have done here. You want to do what? You want to construct a table and you want to label the first row of the table this way. All these are what you need to find the standard deviation of the frequency distribution. The first column, we have the X. The second, we have the F. The third, we have the Fx. The next, we have the D, followed by the D squared, and the last will be the Fd squared. Now, after you have been able to construct this table, the next thing you want to do is you will fill the first three columns of the table with the data that you are having. Fill the first three columns of the table. The next thing is you then determine the mean using this formula. You want to determine the mean of the distribution using this formula. Followed by your fourth step, you want to fill the rest of the columns in the table. The rest of the columns in the table, remember you have only filled the first three columns in the second step. Now you want to fill the rest of the column with what you have been able to get in the step 3. Now, your step 5, you will determine the variance, and lastly, you will determine the standard deviation. Now, to make this thing look real to you, we are going to take an example to explain all the things that we have mentioned here. Now, this is a question from NGM, New General Mathematics, and the question says, calculate the standard deviation of the distribution shown in the table below. This is a table. It contains number, frequency. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the different numbers. And the frequency are 6, 10, 24, 15, and 6. Now, the first step is to construct the table with all these headings in the first row. If you take note, we have the X here, the F, the Fx, the D squared, and the Fd squared. All these are what we need to be able to compute our standard deviation. Then we go on. What is the frequency of 1? That is 6. Frequency of 2 is 10. Frequency of 3 is 24. Frequency of 4 is 15. And frequency of 5 is 6. You have filled the first row, the first column, the second column. Now, how do you get the third column? The Fx column. You are going to do 6 times 1, which is 6, 10 times 2, that is 20, 24 times 3, that is 72, 15 times 4, that is 60, and 6 times 5, that is 30. This is how you fill the first three columns of the table. Now, we are interested in finding the summation of the frequency. We have to do this. Find the summation of the Fx as well. 6 plus 10 plus 24 plus 15 plus 6. The total of all this will give us 61. 6 plus 20 plus 72 plus 60 plus 30 will give us a total of 188. This is the summation of our Fx. The next part is, after filling this part, we want to determine the mean of the distribution. What is our n? Our n is actually the summation of f, and the summation of f is 61. What is the mean? The mean is the summation of the f squared, which is summation fx over summation f. Then we have 188 divided by 61. And the final answer to this is 3.08. 188 divided by 61 is what? Is 3.08. Having gotten this, it is now time for us to compute our deviation column the deviation squared column, and the FD squared column. Then what do? Remember how this is done? We are going to take away this mean from each of all these numbers. That is how we get the deviation. What is 1 minus 3.08? That will give us negative 2.08. What is 2 minus 3.08? This will give us minus 1.08. The next one, what is 3 minus 3.08? That gives us negative 0.08. The next one, what is 4 minus 3.08? That gives us 0.92. And the next one, what is 5 minus 3.08? That gives us 1.92. The next thing is to find the deviation squared. The answers that are here, what are their squares? The first one, minus 0.08, minus 2.08 times minus 2.08. We get a positive 4.33 to 3 decimal places. 4.33. What is minus 1.08 times minus 1.08? That gives us 1.17. The next one, 0.08 minus 0.08. The square of this will give us approximately 0.01, and 0.92, the square of 0.92 will give us approximately 0.85. And the last one, the square of 1.92. When we square that, we get approximately 3.67. These are the squares of what you have here. Then finally, we need to then do the frequency multiplied by the d squared. The f multiplied by the d squared. That will give us the f d squared. Take note, this is done to 2 decimal places. Good. Now, what is 6 times 4.33? This will give us 25.98. What is 10 times 1.17? This will give us 11.70. What is 24 times 0.01? This gives us 0.24. What is 15 times 0.85? That gives us a total of 12.75. And the next one, what is 6 times 3.68? That gives us 22.02. This way, we've been able to compute the FD squared. Then we are now required to find the total of the FD squared. What is the total of the FD squared? When you add this to this to this to this to this with your calculator, you get 72.69. 72.69. That is the summation of our FD squared. And this way, we have been able to complete the whole table. Now, we are moving on to step 5. Step 5 says we should calculate the variance of the distribution. And the formula for calculating the variance of the distribution is summation FD squared divided by summation F. What is our summation FD squared? Which is the answer we have here, the addition of the FD squared. That gives us 72.69 divided by 61. 72.61 divided by 61 gives us a total of 1.19. 1.19. Then this is the variance of that distribution given in this table. Then finally, we now need to find the standard deviation, which is the last step. To find the standard deviation, we then do the square root of 1.19. And what is the square root of 1.19? When we check our calculator, we punch our calculator and compute this, then our final answer gives us 1.09. This is the standard deviation of this question. And that is how it is done. Fill this table, compute your mean. After computing your mean, doing the summation of this, the total of this divided by the total of this. You've gotten that. Then use this to find your deviation of each of these numbers from it. When you have been able to do that, do the square of that as well, the square of each of these, You fill that. Then finally, multiply each of the frequency by the d squared. Each of the frequency by the d squared. This way, you have been able to summarize a lot of things that would have taken your time in your calculation by virtue of this table. And at the end of the day, you were able to calculate your variance. And do not forget that the square root of the variance is your standard deviation. This is how we do for frequency distribution, the standard deviation of frequency distribution. I believe you have now been able to see how that is done, and I wish you more success in what you shall be practicing. Thank you very much for your time, and hope you have learned something today. Keep practicing mathematics because math is fun.